Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 episode number 6 based on novel. So let's start. On one of the floors of the Star Tower, the space was vast and boundless. Luo Feng, who was sitting cross-legged, began to grow larger. Big. 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 From the original height of an ordinary true god, Luo Feng's height suddenly increased in the blink of an eye to a height far exceeding the elegant mountain range over 100,000 kilometers high in his own cave. That mountain range might not even be as tall as Luo Feng's little toe. The space-time of the origin continent is very stable and the suppression is extremely strong. The true gods are generally only about the height of a blade. Even if I fully display my true body now, I am only 120 million kilometers high. Luo Feng looked down at his towering true body and sighed. The suppression of the origin continent is indeed too strong. If I were in the area around the original universe, my divine body would be many times larger. The two areas are completely different in terms of both the speed of time flow and the force of space suppression. In the primitive universe, the true gods are all very huge. I started from the true god level and broke through to the eternal true god in a short period of time. My perfect divine body has not grown to its limit. Luo Feng knew very well that his small universe was constantly absorbing chaotic airflow and converting it into divine power, which was constantly supplying the growth of his divine body. Every moment, I am growing taller. An altitude of 120 million kilometers is just the height during the development process. Over the long years of existence on the origin continent, there are still quite a few people who possess infinite divine bodies. Luo Feng has a large amount of information about infinite divine bodies. Two of the previous Duan Donghe had infinite divine bodies. How tall can a perfect divine body grow at the eternal true god stage? Luo Feng didn't know because there was no precedent. But he understood the height of the infinite divine body. The infinite divine body at the level of the eternal true god can reach an altitude of 3.6 billion kilometers under the environment of the origin continent. Luo Feng thought, I am a perfect divine body, and my growth limit should be higher. Let's develop slowly first. Luo Feng sat cross-legged with his eyes closed and began to study the chaos power diagram. Possessing a perfect divine body, Luo Feng naturally wanted to bring out his own advantages. He carefully screened through the massive inheritance of the two veins and selected the body refining secret method, chaos power diagram. The divine body is cultivated like a secret treasure weapon. A weapon that is hundreds of kilometers tall and a weapon that is hundreds of millions of kilometers tall. Even if the refining principles are similar, the power is completely different. Luo Feng carefully studied and understood this secret method of body refining. Chaos power diagram may seem like an ordinary method of body refining in the chaos realm, but it is very suitable for those with huge divine bodies. This method is divided into 6 levels. The first 3 levels are eternal levels. The last 3 levels are the chaos realm level. The first level of the chaos power diagram is building the foundation. Luo Feng took a few refining materials and used a secret method to smelt the materials. With the strength of Luo Feng's perfect divine power, smelting the materials was still very easy. It's just a smelting technique. Even if you understand it, you still need to try again and again. Refining weapons is not easy. Refining eternal true god level weapons is even more difficult. Luo Feng learned the various weapon refining techniques recorded in the secret method, and naturally encountered various difficulties in the learning process. The characteristics of materials, the combination of materials, the engraving of arrays, how to combine different arrays. Encounter difficulties again and again, and then solve them. Fortunately, I am an eternal true god who became a god through comprehending the laws, and I fully understand the essence of the laws. Luo Feng couldn't help but sigh as he learned the secret method of refining equipment. Those whose bloodlines have cultivated to become eternal true gods know the results, but not the reasons. Without understanding the essence of the laws, it would be much more difficult for them to learn the secret method of refining equipment. In fact, any top secret method is not easy. Even if you can obtain the secret method, you may not be able to master it. The higher you go on the path of cultivation, the harder it becomes. Only those who comprehend the essence of the laws and take every step solidly can hope to reach the God King level. Time passes. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. The length of each day on the origin continent is equivalent to about 1 year in the primordial universe. Considering that the time in the primordial universe flows faster, 1 second passes here, and 10,081 seconds passes there. Therefore, when 1 day passes on the continent of origin, 10,081 years, or 1 era, has passed in the primitive universe. Luo Feng's small universe with a diameter of 100 billion light-years frantically absorbed the chaotic airflow and condensed it into divine power, connecting to Luo Feng's true heart of God and supplying Luo Feng's divine body to grow. In the Star Tower, Luo Feng, who is 120 million kilometers tall, is also growing slowly. 130 million kilometers, 140 million kilometers, 200 million kilometers, 300 million kilometers. As the height increases, more and more divine power is needed, and the growth rate becomes slower and slower. Luo Feng, immersed in the study of chaos power diagram, forgot the time. Ha ha ha, different fields have different worlds. Fortunately, I have a deeper understanding of the laws. Fortunately, this is only the first level of the foundation of the chaos power diagram. I finally figured it out completely. Luo Feng laughed. Oh. Luo Feng then noticed that he had grown a lot taller. Is my height already 800 million kilometers? Luo Feng didn't take this height seriously. After all, according to intelligence, the infinite divine body could reach an altitude of 3.6 billion kilometers at the eternal true God stage. The divine body is still growing. It would be best to wait until it is completely finalized before refining the divine body. Luo Feng thought, otherwise it would waste a lot of materials if the divine body grew while refining itself. Let me comprehend other secret techniques. Luo Feng was already obsessed with cultivation. After becoming the eternal true God and practicing various secret techniques, he naturally improved in all aspects. The feeling of continuous growth is very addictive. 9 boundary-breaking swords, the art of arrays of elements, extinction, Donghua, 9 nightmare realms. Luo Feng was in seclusion, completely immersed in it. He could also sense the laws of chaos that appeared in the ruins of chaos next door at any time. While observing the laws of chaos and studying various secret methods, Luo Feng felt all kinds of insight surge into his mind. The collision of different secret techniques, coupled with Luo Feng's extraordinary talent, made it natural for him to make rapid progress. Being able to cultivate into an eternal true God in the original universe. Being able to cultivate a perfect divine body in such an environment, and having a will that reaches the peak of chaos. Luo Feng's talent is beyond doubt. Immersed in practice, time keeps passing. When Luo Feng had studied several secret techniques, suddenly one day, his increasingly majestic divine body stopped growing. The small universe far away in the original universe area suddenly slowed down its absorption of chaotic airflow from its original extreme state. Luo Feng's divine body also shook and he stopped practicing. My divine body is not growing anymore. Luo Feng felt the new divine power accumulating in the true God's heart, but it was no longer able to make the divine body grow. It has finally grown to the limit of the eternal true God stage. Unconsciously, I have been in the origin continent for 1.2 billion days, more than an era. Luo Feng thought. 1 era of the origin continent is 1 billion days. Luo Feng had been in seclusion for more than an epoch, and 1.2 billion epochs had passed in the original universe. The small universe had been absorbing energy for such a long time, which allowed Luo Feng's divine body to grow to its limit. My current divine body height. After a brief feeling, Luo Feng knew his current height. It has grown to a height of 18 billion kilometers. It is 5 times the maximum height of the infinite divine body of 3.6 billion kilometers. 5 times the height. The vastness of divine power is more than 100 times. In the space-time environment of the origin continent, my height has reached 18 billion kilometers. This is taller than the wall of Huyang City, which is probably up to my knees. Luo Feng thought, with such a huge divine body, those chaos lords who don't have infinite divine bodies are not as tall as me. According to the information he had learned, those who cultivated their bloodline to become the Lord of Chaos, no matter how special their bloodline was or how powerful their secret method was, could not reach a height of more than 10 billion kilometers. Of course, in terms of the quality of divine power, the understanding of the laws of chaos, and weapons and secret treasures, those chaos masters are far superior to himself. Even the secret art of will. The secret arts of will are relatively rare in the origin continent, but for the Chaos Lord, he can easily get a few secret arts of will. Perhaps they are far inferior to the art of columns, but there are also various application techniques. To be able to cultivate to the Chaos realm, one's willpower has already been honed to be very strong. With the secret technique of willpower, Luo Feng wants to use willpower to severely injure the opponent. It is also difficult. Now, there is still a big gap between me and the Lord of Chaos in all aspects. Luo Feng felt the vast divine power contained in the divine body that was 18 billion kilometers tall. Now that the divine body has grown to its limit, I can start comprehensive body training. As soon as he thought of it, a huge amount of materials that had been stored in the Star Tower flew out. Luo Feng began to melt the materials very familiarly, precisely controlling the ratio, and gradually integrating them into every part of the divine body. Luo Feng was already familiar with every step of the first level of building the foundation in Chaos Power Diagram and had experimented with a small amount of materials. Now, the overall body refining was naturally very smooth. Time goes by day by day. Refining a secret treasure of up to 18 billion kilometers is a very tedious task, even if you thoroughly understand all the steps. Luo Feng has a strong will, and he is very careful in recording every formation diagram without any mistakes. Finally, after spending more than 300 days, he completely completed the first level of the Chaos Power Diagram. I finally completed the first level. Luo Feng breathed a sigh of relief. I spent 100,000 cosmic sands to buy refining materials, but there's not much left. Luo Feng felt a little sad. It's just to build the foundation, but it consumes so many materials. Luo Feng also discovered the only disadvantage of the divine body being too big, which is that the consumption of body refining is really too terrifying. 100,000 cosmic sands, I have prepared enough, but I can only barely complete the simplest first layer. The second and third layers are much more complicated and consume much more energy. How many grains of cosmic sand do I need? 1 million grains of cosmic sand? 2 million grains of cosmic sand? Luo Feng felt the pressure. You have to know that someone like Hidomo only has more than 10,000 cosmic sands of treasures accumulated. This time, he was just lucky. Thanks to the huge wealth from the rare treasure, blue-purple blood crystal flower, he was able to complete the first level of foundation building. Luo Feng looked inward at his own divine body. Inside the gigantic divine body that is 18 billion kilometers high, in addition to the original complex structure, there is an additional layer of secret treasure structure. Densely packed secret patterns penetrate into every drop of blood and are integrated into the depths of every bone. The cost is a bit high, but the effect is good. Luo Feng was very satisfied. It's time to leave. As soon as the thought came to his mind, he put away the Star Tower and opened the seal of the underground palace formation. Boom tilde tilde tilde. The passage to the underground palace opened, and Luo Feng flew out and came to his own cave. It was now dark, the cold wind was howling, and the entire cave was silent. Morosa was not in the cave. Seclusion for more than a century is considered a relatively short period for an eternal true god. Luo Feng was completely beaten in close combat in his first battle since he arrived at the origin continent, so he decided to go into seclusion and make up for his many shortcomings. After more than a century, Luo Feng had improved in all aspects. He came back quite quickly. Luo Feng looked up. Relying on the induction of soul slavery, Morosa returned quickly as soon as he came out of seclusion. Call! A stream of black light flew into the cave, and it was Morosa who was carrying a large wine jar in one hand and a large piece of barbecue in the other. Morosa shouted excitedly from a distance. Master, Master, you finally came out of seclusion. I have been waiting anxiously. Luo Feng looked at the wine jar and barbecue and couldn't help but smile. You have been enjoying yourself these days. On the way back, you were reluctant to put down the wine and meat in your hand. Comfortable and comfortable? Morosa took a big bite of meat and shook his head repeatedly. Not comfortable and comfortable at all, master. You told me not to cause trouble. For more than a century, I didn't dare to cause any trouble. It was so frustrating, I just endured it all the time. Feeling aggrieved? Luo Feng asked. Morosa nodded. Huyang City has mixed forces, and there are some crazy people who like fighting and deliberately pick a fight. According to my temper, I would have crushed them to death with one hand. But the master's order is above everything. I will not disobey it even if I die. So I can only endure it and make a big thing small, and a small thing nothing. Luo Feng was very curious. You made a big thing small, and a small thing nothing? The beast born from the avenue of destruction was ferocious in nature. Luo Feng was curious about how he could endure it. I just hurt them a little bit, let them feel the difference in strength. And let them pay a fine. Morosa explained quickly, I'm not looking for trouble. If you don't fight back when you get beaten, you will only be bullied more severely. Luo Feng nodded, I understand. A coward will be eaten to pieces in Huyang City. Master is wise. Morosa smiled and couldn't help but drink a few sips of wine happily. You don't like drinking much in your hometown. Luo Feng was curious. Morosa's eyes lit up, and he quickly said, Master, you have come to the origin continent, but you haven't tasted the wine here? Some of the wine here tastes much better than the wine in your hometown. Let me try it. Luo Feng took the wine jar and took a sip. As soon as I took a bite, I immediately felt that my soul and consciousness were nourished, and I felt comfortable and relaxed. Interesting. Luo Feng said in surprise, after coming to the origin continent, I only drank a cup of Chun Mi wine at the Yangfeng Hall. The taste of that wine was relatively restrained. But your wine is overbearing. It has some influence on my soul consciousness. Luo Feng's soul consciousness is so powerful that he feels comfortable and relaxed. If the true god of void drank, he would probably feel so comfortable that he would feel like he was floating in the air. Morosa nodded and said, the newly born creatures on the origin continent can absorb the power of heaven and earth and do not need to eat or drink. Therefore, their food and wine are not for replenishing energy, but they all have some miraculous effects. It's either a very strong olfactory stimulation, or it has some benefits to the divine body and soul consciousness which makes the true gods very greedy. Morosa said. Luo Feng nodded. He also knew this. Ordinary food and drinks in the origin continent were worthless. Only some special food and drinks could be sold at a high price. Generally, they had miraculous effects such as cleansing the divine body and nourishing the soul. This kind of wine of mine requires 3 chaos crystals. I have to drink it sparingly. Morosa put it away with great care. The food and wine are so attractive? Come on, Morosa, take me to have a look. Luo Feng said. Morosa's eyes lit up, and he opened his mouth wide, swallowing the huge barbecue. He then said, Don't worry, master. I have been here for more than a century, and I don't know much about other things. But there are many foods and wines in Huyang City that I don't know. I will lead the way for you, master. But, Morosa said with a chuckle, but I'm relatively poor, so I'll need you to pay the bill later, master. You look so stingy, but the pocket money you have is all given by me. Luo Feng said, Okay, lead the way. Let's go. Morosa said decisively and took Luo Feng out of the cave. Led by Morosa, after flying for a while, Luo Feng and his companions arrived at an ordinary restaurant called Fire Realm Restaurant. This restaurant did not occupy a large area and was inconspicuous in Huyang City. In the past century, I have eaten a lot of delicious food, and this Fire Realm banquet is my favorite, and it's not expensive, Morosa introduced. Luo Feng looked up. The name, Fire Realm Restaurant, is integrated into the formation and is quite conspicuous. Black Butcher, come out quickly. Morosa shouted, and at the same time he explained to Luo Feng, "Master, Black Butcher is the owner of this restaurant. I have been here many times and I am very familiar with him. And he is from the origin continent who came back from the reincarnation." "The continent of origin that we came back from?" Luo Feng was surprised. A fat man with hair and beard like steel needles came out to greet them. This man had scales all over his body, fangs, and a pair of flaming eyes. His eyes were like burning stars. He came out with great enthusiasm and said humbly and respectfully, "It is an honor for our Fire Realm restaurant to have you here, Your Excellency. This is the eternal true God." Since the opening of this ordinary snack bar, he has encountered only a handful of eternal true God customers. "Hurry up and prepare your signature Fire Realm banquet," Morosa urged. "This way, please." The fat man, Black Butcher, immediately led the way. One of the small buildings inside the Fire Realm restaurant. Luo Feng and Morosa took their seats. "I need to prepare this Fire Realm banquet myself. Please wait for a moment, Your Excellency," the Black Butcher said, and then he withdrew respectfully. At the same time, a waiter came in and served some wine, drinks, and side dishes. As soon as the waiter came in, Luo Feng noticed him and was a little surprised. "Is it you, little guy?" The waiter was the young man named Suozi from the tribe team that Luo Feng had rescued. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Suozi bowed respectfully hastily. "Ha ha ha." Morosa laughed. "I've been here many times, and I often ask Suozi to come and serve me. Master, you saved them in the beginning, and now we meet in the restaurant. It can be considered fate. It's quite a coincidence." Luo Feng nodded. "Why are you in this restaurant?" Suozi was very grateful to this merciful eternal true God. After all, without Luo Feng, their entire team would have died. Reporting to the Lord, "After Suo Yun and I settled in Huyang City, we also needed to earn chaos crystals. Whether it was to pay for living expenses or to practice, chaos crystals were needed." Suozi said, "I'm lucky. The owner of the hall took a fancy to me and recruited me as an apprentice. This kid has a talent for cooking." Morosa said, "With a good cooking skill, he can really take root in Huyang City." Suozi immediately said, "I am learning from the master. Your master is also well known in Huyang City. He came back from the origin continent from the legendary primitive universe and is good at cooking. He also learned some culinary inheritance from the origin continent. The two are integrated into one. Among the true gods of the void, your master's cooking skills are unique." Morosa praised. "He can now be called a gourmet." Suozi nodded and said, "I have been studying very hard. If I don't study hard and get kicked out, I will have to fight hard outside the city." Luo Feng listened at the side and asked, "Where are the brothers who settled in Huyang City with you?" "Suo Yun has become an ordinary guard of a big family." Suozi whispered, "He is risking his life." Luo Feng understood. An ordinary guard of a big family is just cannon fodder. All the hard work is to rush forward. Both of them are talented, so they can find things to do. Morosa said, "According to my observation, about half of the true gods in Huyang City have to go outside the city to hunt exotic beasts frequently." Luo Feng also knew this information. The creatures of the origin continent, at the middle and lower levels, mostly make a living by hunting exotic beasts, and there are also many who are responsible for collecting and processing materials from exotic beasts, which has formed a huge industrial chain. As for the service jobs in a large city, the threshold is very high. Without sufficient talent and strength, you are not qualified to get these service jobs. In the chat. "Here I come." The restaurant owner, Black Butcher, walked in and with a wave of his hand a sumptuous banquet appeared, with all kinds of dishes and food. The most eye-catching thing was the huge red meat in the middle. The meat in the middle exudes the scent of fire. "Sir, I was a true god who became a god of cooking when I was in my hometown, the original universe." The Black Butcher laughed, and later became a true god of the void. "After returning to the origin continent through reincarnation, I still couldn't take root in Huyang City with my cooking skills. So I started from scratch and became a butcher in Huyang City, helping to slaughter exotic beasts, and gradually understood the characteristics of exotic beasts. After 50,000 epochs of hard work, I finally achieved success and opened this Fire Realm restaurant. Your Majesty, please enjoy my Fire Realm banquet. The Black Butcher was quite confident. Throughout the long history of the continent of origin, there have been many powerful people who have returned from the 3,000 original universes, and there are some in every chaos state. In order to promote his business and attract customers, the Black Butcher tried every possible means. Let me try it. Luophone began to taste it. The Black Butcher watched nervously from the side. If an eternal true God likes it and comes here often, it will be a living signboard. Only then can his restaurant become more famous and attract more customers. Luophone tasted them one by one, and the side dishes and drinks in front could only be said to be quite good. When he ate the huge piece of meat placed in the middle, Luophone's eyes lit up. Master, you have to eat it with big mouthfuls, the taste will be better. Morosa said, and Luophone listened and opened his mouth. Immediately, 1/3 of the huge meat flew out, quickly shrank and flew into Luophone's mouth. The meat was large and easy to chew and swallow once it entered my mouth. Boom! Luophone only felt a flame spreading from his abdomen to his whole body, as if cleansing his entire divine body, and his soul consciousness had a warm feeling. Eating the Fire Realm feast is like swallowing up a world of fire. It makes you feel that your body and soul have been transformed. The Black Butcher said, it feels like you have been reborn. Luophone glanced at him with a smile. Get a new life? It's not that mysterious. But it's really comfortable. If one is weak in divine body, one may really feel a feeling of divine body and soul transformation and a feeling of being reborn. What do you think, Your Majesty? The Black Butcher was a little nervous. Not bad. Luophone praised. The Black Butcher could only nod and say, this is a delicacy I created myself. The cooking techniques of some of the top restaurants and eateries in Huyang City are all passed down by the Lord of Chaos or even the God King. Mine can only be considered some minor tricks. Luophone took a sip of wine and said, practice is the foundation. You came from the original universe, so you should not be able to practice bloodline cultivation. Yes. The Black Butcher nodded. I can only follow the path of the laws, but it is too difficult to comprehend the source of the laws. Even though the laws of the origin continent are much clearer, I still encountered some bottlenecks and could not break through. That's why I thought about seeking external forces. I thought about opening a restaurant to earn some money and buy some resources to assist in my practice. It's difficult to open a restaurant, said the Black Butcher. Your Fire Realm banquet is quite good, keep up the good work. Luophone ate half of it and gave the rest to Morosa, who ate it happily with big mouthfuls and soon finished it all in no time. After paying 10 chaos crystals, Luophone and Morosa left. The Black Butcher of the Fire Realm restaurant brought the waiter Suozi to the outside of the restaurant. Suozi. The Black Butcher looked into the distance. Do you think this Supreme Lord will come again in the future? The Supreme Lord seems to like the Fire Realm banquet very much. Suozi said. I hope so. The Black Butcher said with emotion, only if there is an eternal true God who comes to my place frequently can we attract enough true gods to come here. He was also an invincible existence in his hometown's original universe, but after coming to the origin continent, he was beaten to a pulp. In terms of strength? In large cities, there are void true gods everywhere. People like Mo Yuhu and others are going to explore the wild. The Black Butcher was very proud. He didn't want to risk his life at any time while exploring the wild. He started as a butcher and now has many old customers in this restaurant in Huyang City. I need to expand my restaurant so that I can earn more and have a better hope of becoming the eternal true God. The Black Butcher turned and walked towards the restaurant. In Huyang City, even the owner of a small restaurant may have an unusual background. Precisely because there are so many hidden dragons and crouching tigers and so many strong people, it becomes even more difficult to stand out. This video will end here.